Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're finally here. We're on volume 18 of Yona of the Dawn. I feel like this is a checkpoint. This is a major point of the series. And several of you, without spoiling anything, have said, Romania, you need to get to volume 18. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, that's where because here's the thing. We've gotten the backstory on Kija. We've gotten the backstory on Sheena. We've gotten, as of last volume, the backstory on Jeha. Only one that's left is Zeno, and we just found out last volume that he's immortal. So, and the cover, you guys can't see it yet, but I'm sure y'all know, the cover is of Zeno. So, this is going to be his volume, I'm sure. And I knew volume 18 was going to be a major volume because, one, everybody kept saying, like, volume 18. I was like, okay, fine. But two, because the other OVAs tie in with this volume, and I'm like, okay. All right, and volume 12 tied in Kija's backstory with the first OVA, and I was like, okay, awesome. So that makes sense. So it only makes sense that we would tie in Zeno with this second. And there's two OVAs that go. There's a second and third OVA. They both tie into this volume, which is amazing. So basically, we're getting two OVAs that are going to cover the majority of this volume, possibly leading into volume 19, which is exciting. I'm all about that. I'm like, yes, please. So that's really exciting. I am really happy about that. So what I'm going to do, though, is after talking with people on Patreon, and then AZ, fellow YouTuber AZ, sent me a thing saying that volume 18, that the OVAs technically start at chapter 101, page 22. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to think of where that would be at. So I'm not 100% sure. I was very torn because I was like, do I start? I want to read chapter 100, first of all. Just read chapter 100 before we start the OVAs. But I was afraid, I didn't know what to do about 22 pages in, so I'll have to do the math, but I may read a little bit into chapter 101 just to kind of set up where we start with the OVAs. Then I'm going to stop. We're going to watch the OVAs. I pulled them up. Billy have them up there. Some gracious person back in February of this year uploaded the second and third OVAs on the Billy, which is not a sketch site, so thank you. So I can watch them on there with the English subtitles. And then we'll come back, and like we normally do, we discuss the manga, but we'll just come back through and show the manga. And I may go ahead and record and just show like little screen caps of it as we talk about it, but I won't go all the way through like we normally do, since the OVAs are going to cover the material anyway. And I've heard the OVAs are pretty faithful to the manga, so we'll just do it that way. But I'm really excited. I was like, oh, it's not been a full week since I've read volume 17 because I was like, I don't know if I can wait a full week. Nope. So I am really excited. I hope y'all are too. So yep, we're going to read chapter 100. As per requested on Patreon, I am not going to look at the chapter titles. I'm going to skip that. I think from here on in, I'm just not going to look at the chapter title page until we go back and look at the manga again a second time. Because I really liked that last volume. I liked not knowing the chapter titles until the chapter drops. And I was like, oh, cool. Because if you know ahead of time, you kind of get an expectation. So I think from here on in, I'm just not going to look at the chapter title page and just go in fresh. And then when we go back and review the chapters, then we'll see that there. But I'm really excited. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we've made it. So I hope y'all are excited as I am. I am on the edge of my seat. I can't wait. It's been great. I've ordered the next 3 volumes to get ready for these next couple weeks, and I'm just so excited. But yeah, we are gonna just jump right in and start with our boy Zeno and get some explanations. Zeno, you got some splaining to do, and I'm all ready to start here in 3, 2, 1. Look at our boy. Oh my God. I feel like I've met a rite of passage to be a reader and viewer of Yona of the Dawn. I feel like this was the checkpoint you needed to get to. The story starts now. Now the story really starts. Episodes 1 through 24 of the anime was the prologue. And now we've successfully gotten through Act 1, haven't we? I feel like this is the end of Act 1. This is, because your first act of a story, right? Your very first act of a story typically sets up everything. It says, well, I don't think we're totally finished with Act 1. I'll take that back. But I feel like we're now getting into the meat of the first act of the story. Because your first act sets up your characters, it sets up their backstories, it sets up their conflict. And we've got officially all of our dragons introduced. We've gotten their backstories. And now we know the backstories behind the original dragons. We've learned some things about the lore in this volume. The only thing that is left unsaid that we don't quite know yet, and I've not gone back through the manga part that we saw in the OVA yet. That's what we're going to do in this discussion. But we don't know exactly how Suwon fits into all of this. And Zeno recognized him. And so honestly, to be honest, what I thought was going to happen is that Suwon was going to look like Hiryu's first son, right? Because we saw that Hiryu did have a son, and he was left in charge when Hiryu died with the queen. So I honestly thought that we were going to see Hiryu's son, and he was going to look like Suwon, right? Because Suwon and Yona are descendants of Hiryu. So it would make sense that they kind of look like them. Would make sense. But he didn't look anything like Suwon. No, he didn't look anything like Hiryu either, which is curious. Which would kind of make sense, right? Because Yona doesn't look anything like Il. So I was expecting that. We didn't get that. And so then my other thing I was expecting was that, thank God, though, Zeno and Kaya did not have a child. Because I thought it was going to go that whole Doctor Who route. If you've ever watched Doctor Who is in that series, it's science fiction, but it's kind of, Doctor Who is an alien. He's a Time Lord, and he's basically immortal. He can regenerate into new forms, into new bodies, but it's the same body, just different. It looks different. But he's essentially immortal. And in that series, it tackles the concept of someone growing old that you loved and dying. And also he has a child in some of those iterations of himself. And then that child dying. And so that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid that Zeno would have had a kid. And then with Kaya, and maybe that kid looked like Suwon. I don't know. So I don't know why Zeno recognizes Suwon or what he sees in him, but I don't want to know either. So don't spoil me. Don't spoil me. But that was just my thoughts. But, so I know now why, for some of you, Zeno is your favorite dragon, because he might be mine. I love Jeha to pieces. I love Jeha so much. I love Sheena. And I love Kija. Every other word but Kija. But Zeno may be my favorite dragon. Oh, Kusanagi. Kusanagi, what was this? We've not even gotten through all the manga yet, but that first chapter 100, I can see why they didn't animate it, because if you'd watched season 1 of Yona, and then you got to this OVA and you're like, oh my God, chapter 100 is grisly. It is grisly. Like the part where his face gets ripped off and he gets decapitated and he just keeps coming back. Oh, oh my God, it was gruesome. I was like, I couldn't believe that they were just hacking him and calling him a monster. That's the thing. They've not called Kija and Jeha and Sheena monsters. They're just humans with weird powers, right? Or weird appendages. But Zeno is a monster because that's not human, right? He can come back to life. Is this the most tragic backstory ever? What I love that Kusanagi does is that in so many instances, there is the immortality trope, the character that's essentially immortal, that regrets it, that hates it. And Kusanagi runs the gambit. It's like everything you thought of in an immortality trope, Zeno's going to experience it. The fact that he can't get sick, he doesn't age, he feels pain physically, but then it disappears. There's no lingering effects, and he lives forever. He can't die. And he tries to kill himself, and it doesn't work. And he just loses sight of himself until he meets Kaya. And then Kaya is the one that influences his childlike behavior, influences him calling himself Zeno to remind himself who he is because he's thousands of years old. Oh my God. It takes a lot for me to get emotional and cry with anything, especially reading something. I think I could count on one hand the volumes of manga that I've cried reading, I think. And it was starting to get to me, and I was like, no, you're fine. You're fine. It's not going to do it. And then the whole thing with Kaya, him holding her hand. We're going to get back to that. But oh my God. I'm like, Kusanagi, Kusanagi, we've talked about this, the way that her angst just just cuts inside of you, and it's like, well, here we are. Zeno, my dude. Okay, but we need to talk about this volume. The OVAs were great. I feel like the OVAs added that whole drinking thing, the drinking game, and so I feel like that was added in there, right? I feel like that was added in there, the drinking game part, to like start out the OVA, because I think we cut straight to Zeno's dream and to the flashback, right? But man, so I'm not going to read the chapter titles yet, but I wanted to see the page of all the dragons' reaction to Zeno looking shocked. A body that cannot be injured. Oh my God. So we're going to go through this. And if I see any panels, I'm going to put them up here, since the OVA, I'm pretty sure, covers most of it. But God, this volume. And Zeno, he's been around for thousands of years. And at first I was like, man, he's really taking this battle well. But then we find out he's been battling for centuries. He's been fighting for centuries. Like when the other dragons left, he just kept fighting all the armies over and over and over again because he knew he couldn't die at that point. And he put out the fires so that the others in Coca didn't have to do it. And eventually he only left because it was getting uncomfortable. Everybody was noticing he wasn't aging, and he's like, I need to leave. I've been here too long. But them chopping off his arms. The thing that gets me is that, because when he asked for Yona's sword and they chopped off his arms, I'm like, well, what's he going to do? The arms and limbs still work. He can still control them even when they're chopped off from his body. The hell? Oh my God. And then just the way that Kusanagi draws like the tendons and muscles and like just the sinewy nerve endings and everything reattaching his arm. It reminded me of Yu Yu Hakusho, honestly. It reminded me of Toguro from Yu Yu Hakusho. I was like, oh my gosh, Toguro. I was like, ah. It was just reminding me of that. Like, it's grisly. And he's just like, I'm not especially strong, so I can't afford to toy with you. And they're just like, kill the monster. And he looks back at Yona and just smiles at her. And they're all like, the hell? Oh my God. And yeah, his arm just reattaching. And like, and he keeps the medallion in his hair instead of a necklace, it's in his headband. And just starts killing those soldiers because he's like, this is getting us nowhere. Okay. Read the manga. I'm very curious what Kusanagi writes in this volume for the manga notes. I'm so curious. And so now we start with this first one. This is the 18th volume of Yona the Dawn. Thank you for reading it for so long. The anime has come to an end. I'll be sad, but the next volume, Yona Volume 19, will come with an OAD original anime DVD in Japan. Also, the Blu-ray and DVD for Yona anime is on sale. I've drawn the art for the outer case for the first release, and I've drawn a postcard for Volume 12. I hope you'll come check out the Yona anime. Chapter 100 picks up where we left off in Volume 17. I wish we could have included this chapter in that volume. If you've forgotten what happened, you should review Volume 17 before reading this chapter. Interesting. So she intended this chapter to be with... I will say that, yeah, Volume 17 ends on a very odd note. So that's interesting. That's very interesting that she chooses... I guess with editing, they couldn't help that. They had to start the volume. There's only so many chapters and so many pages you can fit per volume. Interesting. Interesting indeed. God. But yeah, like they slice his face and you see like everything regrowing. Like that shot is so grisly. Oh my God. And Yona and them are just like, and then they lob off his head and it doesn't matter. He still comes back to life and reattaches. But then he says, I finally found her. Tear me apart, all you please. I'll still shield them. Like, he's like, I've waited thousands of years for Hiryu to come back to me. And he has in Yona. He's like, I'm not leaving her now. Oh my God. And the fact that he's like, so basically he keeps regenerating. And the more you cut him, the stronger he gets. So if you just leave him alone, he's useless. But the more you attack him, he just absorbs it until the dragon inside of him like physically embodies, and then he's invincible. But what I love that Kusanagi does is that Kusanagi portrays his immortality not as a gift, but it's like a curse, right? But maybe not, because Zeno has all this knowledge and is able to be there for the other dragons. Like, he's like a connector himself. He can connect the original dragons to the present one. So he's like the relic of that history that lives on, right? It's just he's alive, right? Oh my God, this volume. It's amazing. And they're all just like, and what I love about this is that as soon as they retreat, the army retreats and he picks the medal back up, all of the dragons and Yona rush to him and hug him along with Yoon. And they're like, careful, you're all injured. And Zeno's just like, because it's such a stark contrast. Like when Zeno was first with the dragons, they were all like these bloodthirsty warriors and they didn't like Zeno. And then by the end when they left, they did like Zeno, but then he didn't see him again. And now, and we'll talk about this, like all the dragons building up over time in each of these. But, oh my gosh. He's like, it's all right, Zeno is still alive. You're all so adorable. And I love that Yona and Yoon and Sheena and Kija are crying over him. And Hawk and Jaeha are just standing there looking like, They don't, Hawk and Jaeha are not like huggers. They're just not huggy, touchy-feely. Well, I say that. Jaeha would be touchy-feely, perhaps. But, oh my gosh. But yeah, Yona clutching Zeno and crying over him. The first dragons. I love that she's holding his tattered, like, bloody clothes there. So yeah, so Zeno's fine. He's back to normal. He's one of the original dragons. They established this. And the undying one is the yellow dragon. Okay, so this other one. While drawing this page, fax the rough draft to the editorial office. Okay. Hey sis, I've seen Foolish Brothers and Wise Rulers, and all along, what Foolish Brother is he talking about? Is it Taejun? Does he mean Taejun? Oh! I've seen Foolish and Wise Rulers, and all along, I've been waiting for the Crimson King to be reincarnated. So yeah, so we've suspected for a long time that Yona is the reincarnated, is here reincarnated. Like, that's been suspected, like, a lot. And so it's good to get it confirmed. Or at least Zeno believes it. And so, yeah, he was waiting to see how Yona would be. Like, is Yona going to be foolish? Is she going to be wise? Is she going to be worth following and living up to the spirit of Hiryu? And apparently she is. So that's good to know. And the fact that he was like, they said, oh, it's no big deal. And he's like, so he was married. And Jaeha's like, huh. The person Jaeha thought was the youngest suddenly seems like a real adult. Yeah, well, she was really old when he married Kaya already, right? So we go to this dream that he has. I want to get back to it. I like Kija being like, I've always wanted to meet one of the original dragons, and now I don't know what to do. It's like I had all these thoughts of what I'd say, and now I don't know. And I love that Zeno's like, it's fine. So Zeno basically establishes that inside Kija are the spirits of all the previous white dragons. And Zeno's like, you're pretty impressive. You've kept all these white dragon spirits from controlling you, and you've maintained your own sense of identity. And then Kija's like, what are you talking about? So essentially what he's suggesting is that all of the current dragons have the previous embodiments of all the other dragons inside of them. It's just built up over time. Interesting. But they are still their own people. It's just, he's like, you remind me of the first white dragon. The first white dragon seems very different than Kija, but they are similar in the fact that they do go headstrong into something, and they seem like once they're devoted towards something, they just keep with it. But then we establish, I love that Zeno looks around, he sees Hawk asleep, Jaeha and Kija and Sheena, the 4 dragon warriors. So I love that Zeno, he's like, if I can make this world everyone a little bit happier, then I'll accept the blood. And that's the thing. He gets the immortality to keep going on and making people's lives better. He's like the sun. It's something constant. It's always there. The sunlight doesn't ever go away. It's always there to help people. And it's like, but what a price. What a price to pay. So yeah, we see the original dragons. It's funny that I think they're all the same voice actors too as the other ones. They just sound a little bit different. But they're warriors. They are literally all warriors fighting with Hiryu. And Zeno, poor Zeno, who's not used to fighting, he's like about to throw up on the battlefield, and they're all like, you know, you're not suited to be here. But Hiryu's like, stay behind me. I won't allow any harm to come to you. The Crimson Dragon King and the 4 dragon warriors with dragon blood, this is where our bond was forged. And so we get an image of the Crimson Dragon King as a dragon. Long, long ago, the Crimson Dragon King became human and was served by 4 dragon warriors with dragon blood. And he founded the kingdom of Koka. Chapter 102, the Children of God. Interesting. And so then, yeah, we have Guin, we have Shuten, and we have Abby, the original dragons. And so, yeah, and this is basically just looks exactly like the OVA. And then Hiryu. And Hiryu establishes that he can't be hurt. And so Hiryu was a dragon god himself before he became human. So he knows what that power is that Zeno has inherited. And he just instantly hugs him. Because he knows, he's like, you accepted this power and I know what it is. And you're going to live forever. And I think Hiryu felt sorry for him. He was like, oh my God, you don't even know what you have yet. And so he gave him the crest to be like, this will remind you. And when he says it's a reminder that I'm always with you, I was like, oh, he's about to die. And I love that the other dragons, like whether it's their blood or whether it's them, they're like, we want something. And he's like, it's the only one I had. And they're like, oh, they have the chicken faces, like little chicken mouths. It's adorable. But I love that Zeno says later on, he's like, that crest was given to me because Hiryu knew the power I had. And he knew I needed something to anchor me and to keep me calm. And it was that crest. And then whenever Hiryu like has that smile, it looks like Yona. Like the Crimson Dragon Queen looks like so much like Yona. Oh my gosh. So yeah, fun times. Fun times. I left my notes away. I didn't bring my notes with me from, and I'm regretting that now, from previous volumes, and I'll probably have to tie back to this in volume 19, but I did want to make a note. But someone on Patreon, this person here, was talking about how, about Hawk and just like theories about Hawk. Because Hawk, the Thunder Beast isn't really mentioned in here, and I was like, the Thunder Beast seems like somewhat supernatural, even though they're not tied to the dragon myth. And so they were commenting that maybe because Hawk was adopted, and I was like, oh, I forgot Hawk was adopted. Moondog adopted him as a kid, so we don't know exactly where Hawk's from. And we see in the editor's notes here for the mangaka, they say, thank you to our little friend in the Kai Empire. And I said in the last volume that Calgon kind of looks like Hawk. And so this person was saying, well, maybe it's like a little foreshadowing that Hawk might be from the Kai Empire. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, that maybe Hawk was from the Kai Empire and ended up over in Quokka and was adopted by Moondog. That's curious. And so I added on saying, I wonder if maybe the whole Thunder Beast thing, you know, we have these 4 dragons of Quokka, and that's kind of the mythology tied to Quokka. Well, if there's dragon gods, and we've called Hawk a dark dragon, who's to say that Hawk isn't like from Kai Empire having like a dragon mythology and Hawk's from over there? And it would kind of tie into Yona wanting to not fight Kai Empire and to protect Koka at the same time, kind of wanting to meet in the middle. If Hawk was originally from Kai Empire, that could be like a way for them to kind of merge together worlds. I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about, but the mangaka's notes with Calgon made me think of it. But yeah, we see the original dragon warriors, and they all kind of, especially like the white dragon and the blue dragon, the original ones, Guin and Abby, they don't really necessarily look totally like Sheena. They just look, and Kija, they just look similar. But Jeha and the green dragon, they look very similar. It's interesting. But yeah, and they basically tell their powers and everything, and one just can't be killed. I love that we see like Zeno healing himself, but like he felt the pain from it, but my head was spinning and I felt nauseous. Like he is sick from the idea. Because yeah, if you got stabbed and thought you were dead and you felt that pain and then nothing happened. Like I love the idea of how Kusanagi treats immortality in this with Zeno's character. Like how that trope is treated. I love it. Because it's is just, it would drive you insane watching everyone grow old around you and you can't do anything. Like, you don't get sick, you don't age, you don't get hurt. And if you do get hurt, you feel the pain for a second, but it never lingers. It's just, yeah, you'd lose sight of yourself. And so that's Kaya's whole recommendation of saying his name over and over again. It totally makes sense. But yeah, but we see that time has passed. And oh my gosh. And then I love that Hiryu calls Zeno closer and says, my body doesn't hurt at all. I never get tired. I never get sick. And if I get injured, it hurts, but the wound vanishes like it was never there. And I still have so much energy. Everything about this is terrifying. Like, he doesn't get tired. He just keeps going constantly. What is the Yellow Dragon's true power? Did you know, Your Majesty? And I think he did, but he just couldn't tell him. And then he died. Oh, and then chapter 103, my lord sleeps. Oh my gosh. And we see that image from the OP. That was the other thing that they commented on, was that Zeno, it's been foreshadowed from the start that Zeno, in the OP for the anime, it showed Zeno with the shield. And we never saw Zeno fight with a shield ever. I was waiting for it in the anime, and then I kind of just gave up on it. I was like, well, maybe eventually Zeno will get a shield in the manga. It was all just literal foreshadowing that Zeno is a shield. He's literally a meat shield. He doesn't need a real one. He is one. I also like that the original Green Dragon had a spear that kind of looked like the glaive that Hawk had. And we said that Hawk and Jeha are very similar. So that was interesting. But yeah, this image of the four around Hiryu and showing them mourning him. I bet if I go back and rewatch this anime now, I'll notice Zeno and be like, wow, that was there the whole time. And I just didn't notice it. Ah. But yeah, the idea of, was it their grief or was it the dragon blood? Was it both, right? I love it. And so they all eventually decide. I like that they say that the blue dragon was captured and was rescued by the green and the white dragon, but since then he hid his eyes and hasn't left the Crimson Dragon King's mausoleum. Like, he was so scared. Huh. That's interesting, tying to Sheena's character too, because Sheena's so reserved, and we see that the blue dragon Abby kind of becomes reserved too, so that's interesting seeing how that develops. And that explains why the blue dragon village like fears the power being found, because it's something that makes them a target. And so then it all kind of ties back to their character in the craziest of ways, right? But Zeno agreeing to be like a priest and staying behind and serving as a priest who is acting like as the voice of God. I'll relay the voice of the heavens to you. And the funny thing is, he's like, he kind of lies. He's like, ever since I gained this power, I've not heard the voice of God. It's like, oh. But yeah, I can't abandon the queen and the prince. I'll act as a priest to appease those in the palace. And then Kija makes some promises like, come see me, even if I'm old by then. And Zeno's like, sure, but he never goes. What's this? The mangaka note. People often mention that Zeno only appears in the last episode of the anime. But even in the manga, it's taken until volume 18 for him to get his turn. Haha. I'm glad that Zeno's appearance in the final episode was so memorable. I was so happy that I could depict Zeno's past and the first dragons. The first dragons aren't the same as the current ones, but Kija and the others in the present share their basic natures. I wanted to draw them on the cover of volume 18, but after further thought, I decided to only draw Zeno. I'd like to draw the first dragons in color someday. I'd like to draw illustrations of many different characters. I agree. I like that she chose Zeno because it's a surprise when we see the dragons. It makes it a fun surprise. And this is really Zeno's volume, so it makes sense that he gets center stage. But I like that the base natures of the dragons are similar to their ancestors, but that's about it. And even Abby crying with the little bandana over their eyes and showing their eyes to Zeno. Oh. And them doing that stupid hug. That stupid little hug. Oh, breaking my heart. Where even if we fall apart, we'll hear each other's blood calling. The Crimson Dragon has returned to the heavens, and someday we'll return there too. Our souls are connected, the blood of us, 4 dragons, and the bond with the Crimson Dragon will never disappear. Let's meet again someday, my brothers. Gwyn, Abby, Shuton. My soul will probably never return to the heavens. That's the saddest part. He's like, I can never meet up with you all again. I'm stuck here forever. Oh, just bruh. And then we see all of them and time passes. And so, yeah, we get the prince. Yeah, Yakushi. And so, yeah, we see him and he does look different than Hiryu. And so, yeah, he takes the sword and he's like, I'll go. He's like, oh, we should trust. And he says, I'm sure that the heavens will guide us in the right direction. He's like, oh, really? And he's like, the truth is, yeah. And so by the heavens will guide us, he goes and takes charge and does it himself. Like, this part was hard. Him just going off and battling and him saying that he senses that Gwyn's presence is nearly gone and the others are about to die. I was too scared to see you grow older. And he tells him to hold on. He doesn't want him to leave. I'm a little more useful now, but I hate combat. But when I do this, I feel like I'm by your sides again. And that animation of him like shaking as he's going towards the battle to fight this army. Oh my God, Kusanagi. What? Let's protect the Crimson Dragon King together. And then we see Gwyn dying. Like it's been that long. Like that much time has passed. So yeah, that guy, Yakushi, it may have been the king. It may have been Hiryu's son. It may have been his grandson. We don't know. So there's no telling. I mean, maybe Yakushi could be the grandson of Hiryu for all we know. And maybe Hiryu's son does look like Suwon. I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want to be spoiled. But him being able to sense when they died. And having all the swords in him. Oh my God. And crying like, oh my God. Don't go. Don't leave me behind. Oh my God. A small boat that goes nowhere. Chapter 104. Wow. That's a small boat that goes nowhere. It's like Zeno. He's the vessel. He talks about them all being vessels. And he talks about how he senses the other dragons coming back to life over time. But he's the small boat that doesn't ever go anywhere. Like nobody can replace him. He can't kill himself. And then he sees like the next dragon. Oh, I'm such an idiot. They're all gone now. No amount of regret can change that. So he just loses his purpose. He loses his sense to live. And then that's when he meets Kaya. Okay, so Kaya in the manga, let me take a picture of her. She does look a little bit different from Yona. Good. Okay. Because in the anime, in the OVA, she looks a lot like Yona. Her design, like the way her hair is and her eyes, she looked a lot like Yona. But I'm going to show you all the image of her in the manga. She does look different. She does not look like Yona in the manga. So I'm like, okay, cool. Because that part was a little weird at first. I'm like, why does Kaya look like her? But because she's not the relation to the Crimson Dragon King that we know of. But she's just a different girl. Good. That makes much more sense now. And of course, her deal is that she's got the tuberculosis. It's every pretty girl, every pretty pale girl has tuberculosis in past times, and she's about to die. And she's like, "You need without food, you'll die." And he's like, "No, I won't." And he says, "I want to die." And she's just like, "Oh," and that gets me. And then she's like, "I have an illness. I live alone, so no one else will catch it." And he's like, he's like, "I'm not going to get sick from you." So they were like perfect for each other. And then Zeno, that's easy to remember. And he's like, and he has to think about what his name was. That's the sad thing. Like it's been so long, he'd almost forgotten his name. And he says, "No one's called me by my name for many years." And she says, "Kaya lives alone. So I do that." So she does that sometimes. Like that's kind of childish. And she's like, "I'll remember your name." Oh. So here's the next thing. I drew the ZENO'S past arc while listening to Yuna and Iksu's reluctantly part ways from the soundtrack of the Yona anime. It was used not only in the scene with Yoon and Iksu, but in the episode with the original Ao and Sheena as well. It's a sad melody, so it stirs my imagination. Naturally, I also like the theme of Song of Yona of the Dawn, but I also like the Yona of the Dawn final chapter and the Legend of the Four Dragons. Kunihiko Ryo's soundtrack is filled with wonderful pieces that touch my heart. If any of you are interested, you should listen to the CD. Yeah, the music's great in this show. But, and then when she said she was gonna die, at first, like, goodbye, Zeno, and he's like, ah! And she's like, I'm just joking. It's like, oh my God, no. Jesse's like, you're not alive. You're not dead. Oh yeah, no, still alive. And so then, yeah, they spend all this time together, and he gives her the flower. He stayed with Kaya while he earned money. And then, yeah, oh my God, and they're just so happy together. She's like, I wish time would hold still. And that gets him because he realizes that she is going to die and leave him alone again. And then they don't show you in the manga, but he goes and gets the coals out of the fire for her. That part was rough. They animated that. They didn't show that in the manga. They didn't show him like reaching into the fire to pick out the coals because his hand can't be burned. She's like, you don't need to look after me anymore. He's like, I want to stay with you forever. And she's like, that's impossible. And then he asks her to marry him. And for her, she probably like went her whole life thinking that with this illness, nobody would be able to stay around her. And then Zeno does. And she just cries and they're together. This is the part that got me. When he goes out to pray for her not to die. No, that part, like, I couldn't. Like, I'm getting emotional looking at the manga. Because he asked the dragon gods, he's like, I don't care if I can never die. I'll be your slave forever. Just don't let Kaya live a little longer. No matter how long I yelled, they never replied. And then when she says, let's meet up again up in the sky. Because he can't. They just go straight to it. Oh my God. Nope. That part, that's what got me. When she said, there's a panel and I'm going to show you all exactly what it looks like. There's this panel of her saying, let's meet up again in the sky. And then it shows her reaching for his hand. And then you know exactly what they cut to? They cut to him holding the damn skeleton. The skeletal hand of hers. No. Basically, he just stayed with her corpse. He stayed with her corpse. Until there was nothing left. That is so disturbing. And sad and horrific. Kusanagi, what? And then he finally moved on. Chapter 105, The Crimson Star Rises. So we are going to get to the end of the volume here. Hundreds of years must have passed. I didn't really keep track. Oh my God. 5 tribes hold power in Koka. Rebellions for the control of the throne are frequent. There are some minor squabbles with warlords from other nations, but they don't confront them with swords and armies like they used to. People are born within a physical body. They learn and they go back to heaven. That's their destiny. Or something like that. Under the crushing weight of time, my body sometimes took the brunt of my frustrations. Yeah, but each time the dragon crest soothed my broken heart. So basically he tried to kill himself at times over these last hundreds of years and then used the crest to like bring himself back. This volume broke me. It broke my heart. Like the whole thing with Zeno broke my heart. I feel for our yellow dragon. I do. Yep. And he gave him the amulet to protect him. Letting it go was hard. Yeah, and so he said, yeah, he's like, they needed a symbol of God, so he gave them the necklace, but then it kept coming back. The crest came back to me, like it just popped back on him. Like, what mystical thing is this? Is there some specific reason I need to have this crest? So that's a thing too. That's a mystery. We don't know exactly why he needs the crest, but he can't leave it. It stays with him. King Kiryu won't let it leave him. So that's interesting. After Kaya died, I wondered for many years. And once my mind calmed, I finally started thinking. Yeah, that was a heartbreaking line in itself when he's like, it just shows him like wandering aimlessly for hundreds of years. Well, he says many years. But he's like, once my mind calmed. So basically he just grieved probably for decades. Just grieved in his sadness. And then finally, when he finally calmed down, he was like, okay, let me think. I thought this was the pig that had been hit by the arrow by Yona. I thought that had been it. But I don't think it was now. I think it just happens to be in the same... It's just coincidence that it's a boar that was hit the same way. But it's a different one. Interesting. Yeah. In volumes, okay, here's another mangaka thing. In volume 17, I announced the Yona's character's birthday. Even though they were jokey dates, I'm glad readers seemed to enjoy them. I wasn't sure whether to make Kija's birthday White Day, March 14th, or not. But he seemed he could be born in April, so I decided on 4/6, which is Day of White. April's birthstone is the diamond. About 9 years ago, I scrapped an idea for a manga about power stones. The character who had the diamond as his guardian stone was like Kija, and the main hero was like Hawk. As you might expect, the two of them fought a lot. Apparently, I've been wanting to draw these characters for quite a while. Oh, that's so cool. I love the idea that your characters evolve that you make up, and so she took Hawk and Kija's characters from one story idea and kind of transmitted them to another. That's great. So then, yeah, Zeno realizes, he's like, okay, well, if the dragons can keep being reborn, then why can't the Crimson King be reborn eventually? He's like, will I see his majesty again? Does that mean the 4 dragon warriors could unite once again? Yeah. So he's like, yeah, the whole purpose of the dragon warriors was to protect the king. So why is he still alive if the king is no longer there? So Zeno realizes, he's like, oh, so I've been alive all this time to protect the king, but the king's been gone, but that just means he's going to come back. That's what I'm waiting on. And now he's finally found her. But he's like, even if we do, it's not as if Guin and the others can come back. But no matter how many years pass, this dragon crest never fades. Yeah. And so Zeno says he's going to keep watch over the growth of the Crimson Dragon King's beloved nation. It could be centuries or millennia. Perhaps there might be a 1 in a million chance that someday. And then we see the red star. And Kija sees it. Yeah, and it's just like the damn world tour. Like, Zeno just goes to see all of them. Just goes to see all of them. Yep. And meets up with Kija and notes all that and notes, if we're lucky, we'll meet again. And I like that Kija kind of seemed like he suspected that Zeno was the Yellow Dragon, but Sheena knew. Sheena instantly knew and gave him the toy. He's like, did you get that toy from a merchant? No, a yellow dragon. Yeah, oh my god. And then he goes to where Jeha is. And he's like, Shutin, if you saw this, you'd be furious. It's so foolish. No one in this world could ever truly chain the green dragon down. Yeah, which it's funny because Shutin in the OVA is very much, I'd say of all the dragons, Shutin was the most like Jeha, most like the current version. The idea that they can't be tamed, they can't be held down, they long for freedom and just to move about and never settle down anywhere. Makes sense. Whereas Kija and Sheena, there are elements of Abby and Guin that are similar to them, but I think Guin and Kija are the most removed from each other in terms of the original versus the current. And Sheena and Abby kind of have similarities, and then Jeha and Shutin have a lot of similarities, and then there's Zeno. The Crimson Dragon King's spirit has finally been reborn onto this land. Has he come to protect a nation? To create a nation? Or has he returned for the sake of the dragon warriors who've yearned for him for so long? I'm going to take another journey. Whatever path the new Crimson Dragon takes might finally give my existence meaning again. My wish might be granted. It's fine. Zeno is good at waiting. Oh, I love it. I love Zeno's like, I have a reason to live again. And what type of person will Hiryu's reincarnation be? And it's Yona! So what will Yona do? And now, that whole episode where Zeno's like, what are you going to do? It all makes so much more sense now that he's like, okay, he without telling Yona she's the reincarnation, like, you have all of his dragon warriors, what are you going to do now? And Yona's like, I don't know. And so Oh my gosh. But I love it. He's like, come closer. And then, there now. Is this a game? Look at how big you've all gotten. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it so much. I want to take a picture of that. Oh my God. Chapter 105, the end. Okay. So, bonus chapter. We apologize for our carelessness. Maybe this bonus chapter is the one that they started the OVA with, where they were all drinking. Okay, maybe that's it. Let's find out. We're heading to a nearby town to do some shopping today. You strange beasts will stand out too much, so guard the campsite while we're gone. That's the situation tonight. We're fending for ourselves for dinner. Are you ready? Have you braced ourselves? Braced ourselves. Oh my. Okay. Oh, is this? What is this? This seems like an extra chapter. This is not dealing with the drinking thing. Okay, hold on. Hold on. We need to look at this. So I'm in a rare move. There's gonna be a second link down below. There's gonna be a second link down below to this bonus chapter, because how dare they insert this bonus chapter, okay? So there's going to be a link down below, and then we'll come back later because I want to show you all this bonus chapter. But we're going to look at that here in 3, 2, 1, and we'll be right back. But oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So basically the OVA, the scene with them having the drinking contest and the Yona. I'm sad the Yona and Hawk moments aren't canon, technically, because that was a really sweet moment with her falling asleep on Hawk and him carrying her to the tent. But, and being nice to her and telling her she had enough to drink. But, I love that Zeno doesn't want you to talk about his age. Zeno does not want to be reminded that he's immortal. Let's establish that. Zeno does not want to have that reminded for him, but, oh my God, y'all. Oh my God. Oh, this volume. This was amazing. And I get it now. I get it. So yeah, I understand now what y'all were talking about. I feel like I have officially crossed into the Yona fandom, even though I've been reading 18 volumes and seen a whole series of the anime. I feel like until you get to this point, you've not made it. Once you get to this point, because Kusanagi pulled no punches with this. Kusanagi pulled no punches. She was like, nope. It was gruesome. It was heartbreaking. It was tragic. It was bittersweet. It was beautiful. And it was wonderful. And now Zeno's my favorite dragon. It's official. It only took me 18 volumes. I don't want to rank them because I love all of them. I will say Zeno is probably my favorite now, and Jeha is my second. Kija's probably my third. And I love Sheena, but we just don't see enough of Sheena. We saw a lot of him back like in volume 10. But Sheena's so quiet that I don't blame anybody for liking Kija the most, or liking Sheena the most, or liking Jeha the most. I don't blame anybody because they're all so good in their own right. But Zeno, I'm really, really regretting that husbando pull now. I'm really regretting those decisions now. When we have the husbando poll again, y'all have to vote for Zeno and put him back on there. I was like, why is Zeno and Jeha on here, not Kija and Sheena? I know now why. But yeah, holy crap. I feel like I just ran a marathon. And I cried, tears were shed, and my heart ached, and now seeing them all hug each other is just like, it's sad because I don't know what the end goal of this series is going to be, because I'm like, I don't know. It feels like whatever was happening with Hiryu, there were things left unsaid, right? Hiryu never got to answer the question. And so I wonder if Hiryu knew that he would come back and knew that in the future he would be needed, that Zeno, because Zeno's like, is that what my power is? And Zeno was like, well, and Hiryu never answered his question, right? So I wonder if Hiryu, if the back of him knew that this wasn't the end, and that Zeno still had a purpose, even if it took 2,000 years for it to come to fruition again. So I don't know if maybe that was it, what that was. If that could be tied to it. I don't want to be spoiled, but the funny thing is I'm looking at the last page of this volume. This came out in 2015, 7 years ago. And we're still like, here's the thing. We're at volume 36 now of Yona is where the series is now. This was halfway there. We're only to the halfway point of where the series currently is. What? That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing, y'all. So, oh, buddy. Okay. Also, I'm just noting that there's a parental advisory for this volume saying Yona of the Dawn is rated T for teen and is recommended for ages 13 and up. This volume contains violence and suggestive themes. Yeah. If that, I don't remember seeing that little note on previous volumes. Maybe it's been there all along, but yeah, this volume definitely was gruesome. And I was like, holy cow. Huh. So yeah, welcome to Yona of the Dawn, I guess. Now we know the backstories of all the dragons. Hawk is still mysterious because we don't entirely know his whole backstory. I don't want to be spoiled. Maybe we'll find out more about him. We still don't know why Zeno saw Suwon and was surprised. We'll know about that more, I'm sure, as we go on. Like I said, we're at volume 18 in the series, at volume 36, 37, or 38 now, so we have so much left to go, but this was amazing. I hope y'all enjoyed this discussion and reaction, and I'm curious to know your comments down below. Please don't spoil me, or if you are going to tag spoilers, like, please. I am going to watch the stage play now. I am going to watch the stage play, so that should come out here in a couple weeks. I'll have it on Patreon and YouTube, the stage play. I'm really excited about that because now I've been told that I could watch the stage play after reading volume 18 because there was a spoiler. I can't imagine what that spoiler is that is hinted at in the stage play. So I'm like, okay, cool. But oh my God, 100 chapters into Yona of the Dawn, and here we are. This was amazing, y'all. I'm ready for volume 19. I'm so ready to hear your thoughts down below, but in any case, we're not like Zeno, so I hope y'all have a wonderful week, but please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Yona of the Dawn. Bye.